Namo Ramana, prostrations to Ramana, shining is the self in all beings. By the immense grace of that self manifest as Ramana, we begin the satsang with the prayer by Sapna Ganesh, followed by the chanting of Muktakatrayam by Nandakumar.
दक्षिणामूर्तिसारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमां रमणाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् शुक्लां वरदरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये आङ्गिकं भुवनं यस्य वाचिकं सर्ववाङ्मयम् आहार्यं चन्द्रतारादि तं नमः सात्विकं शिवम् ॐ नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय. Namo Ramana to everyone.
Ekam aksharam hृदि निरन्तरं भासते स्वयं लिख्यते कथम् हृदयकुहरमध्ये केवलं ब्रह्ममात्रम् ह्यहमहमिति साक्षात् आत्मरूपेण भाति हृदि विषमनसा स्वं चिन्वता मज्जता पवनचलनरोधा आत्मनिष्ठो भवत्वम् देहं मृण्मयवत् जडात्मकम् अहं बुद्धिर्न तस्यास्त्यतो नाहं तत्तद्भावशक्तिसमये सिद्धात्मसद्भावतः कोऽहं भावयुतः कुतो वरधिया दृष्टात्मनिष्टात्मा सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचलशिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया revathi soyam. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana. We continue the satsang with chanting of Upadesha Sara verses by Ashmi Balaji and Uma Shripati.
नमो रमण इदमहं पदाभिक्यमन्वहम् अहमिलीनके प्रलयसत्तया विग्रहेन्द्रिया प्राणधीतमा नाहमेकसत्तज्जडं ह्यसत् सत्त्वभासिका चित्त्ववेतरा सत्तया हि चेत् चित्तया ह्यहम् ईश जीवयोर्वेषदीपिदा सत्स्वभावतो वस्तु केवलम् वेषः नदा स्वात्मदर्शनम् ईशदर्शनम् स्वात्मरूपत आत्मसंस्थिति स्वात्मदर्शनम् आत्मनिर्द्वयादात्मनिष्ठता ज्ञानवर्जिता ज्ञानहीन चेत् ज्ञानमस्ति किं ज्ञातुमन्तरम् किं स्वरूपम् इत्यात्मदर्शने अव्यया भवा पूर्णचित्सुखम् बन्धं मुक्त्यतीतं परं सुखं विन्दति ह जीवस्तु दैविक अहमपेतकं निजविभानकं महदिदं तपो रमणवागियम् नमो नमः।
Namo Ramana. We now have offerings of Ramananjali Sangeeta, first by Srimati Radha, accompanied by Vallabh, and this will be followed by an offering by Pratibha Sundaresh.
Namo Ramana to all. Today we have selected a song by Sri Sadhu Om Swami, and the music is by Sri H.K. Narayana. ரமணனையே சரணாகதி அடைந்தேன் ரமணனையே சரணாகதி அடைந்தேன் ரமணனையே சரணாகதி அடைந்தேன் ரமணனையே சரணாகதி அடைந்தேன் என்னை உய்விக்க எண்ணம் கொண்டவோர் பெருமுத்தமனை அடைந்தேன் அவன் செய்விக்கும் லீலைகளால் என்னை அவன் தேர்ந்ததை நான் அறிந்தேன் என்னை உய்விக்க எண்ணம் கொண்டவோர் பெருமுத்தமனை அடைந்தேன் அவன் செய்விக்கும் லீலைகளால் என்னை அவன் தேர்ந்ததை நான் அடைந்தேன் மாலும் இன்றி பெரும் காற்றில் மரக்கலம் ஆகாமல் மேன்மேலும் மாலும் இன்றி பெரும் காற்றில் மரக்கலம் ஆகாமல் மேன்மேலும் என்னை காத்தே அருள் செய்யும் விந்தையை என்ன சொல்வேன் என்னை காத்தே அருள் செய்யும் விந்தையை என்ன சொல்வேன் மாலும் இன்றி பெரும் காற்றில் மரக்கலம் ஆகாமல் மேன்மேலும் என்னை காத்தே அருள் செய்யும் விந்தையை என்ன சொல்வேன் என்னை உய்விக்க எண்ணம் கொண்டவோர் பெருமுத்தமனை அடைந்தேன் அவன் செய்விக்கும் லீலைகளால் என்னை அவன் தேர்ந்ததை நான் அறிந்தேன் இத்தனை பொறுப்புடனே குழந்தையாய் என் மேல் விருப்புடனே உள்ள இத்தனை பொறுப்புடனே குழந்தையாய் என்மேல் விருப்புடனே உள்ள சத்திய ரமணனையே என்றென்றும் சரணாகதி அடைந்தேன். சத்திய ரமணனையே என்றென்றும் சரணாகதி அடைந்தேன். இத்தனை பொறுப்புடனே குழந்தையாய் என்மேல் விருப்புடனே உள்ள சத்திய ரமணனையே என்றென்றும் சரணாகதி அடைந்தேன். என்னை உய்விக்க எண்ணம் கொண்ட ஓர் பெருமுத்தமனை அடைந்தேன். அவன் செய்விக்கும் லீலைகளால் என்னை அவன் தேர்ந்ததை நான் அறிந்தேன். என்னை உய்விக்க எண்ணம் கொண்டவோர் பெருமுத்தமனை அடைந்தேன். அவன் செய்விக்கும் லீலைகளால் என்னை அவன் தேர்ந்ததை நான் அறிந்தேன். அவன் தேர்ந்ததை நான் அறிந்தேன். அவன் தேர்ந்ததை நான் அறிந்தேன். நமோ ரமண.
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. This is a Sanskrit composition by Sri Ganapati Muni and music is by Sulochana Ma. Dandam vinaiva yatinam bata dandapanim. Dandam vinaiva yatinam bata dandapanim. Dukkhaditarakam harim bata tarakasya. Dandam vinaiva yatinam bata dandapanim. दुःखादितारकं हरिं बत तारकस्य दण्डं विनैव यतीनम् त्यक्त्वा भवं भवमहो सततं भजन्तं त्यक्त्वा भवं भवमहो सततं भजन्तं पनिपसास पनिपरीरि सनि रे सनि सदा पदधनि नि सरि रे सनि प मणि प गाम प हंसं तथापि गतमानस संगरागम् हंसं तथापि गतमानस संगरागम् दण्डं विनैव यतीनं बत दण्डपाणिं दुःखादितारकं हरिं बत तारकस्य दण्डं विनैव यतीनम् धीरत्वसम्पदि सुवर्णगिरेण नूनं वाराम्निदेरधिकम् एव गभीरतायां धीरत्वसम्पदि सुवर्णगिरेण नूनं वाराम्निधेरधिकम् एव गभीरतायां शान्तौ जयन्तम् अचलामखिलस्य धात्रीं शान्तौ जयन्तम् अचलामखिलस्य धात्रीं दान्तौ निदर्शनम् अशान्तिकदादभीष्टम् दान्तौ निदर्शनम् अशान्तिकदादभीष्टम् पनिपसास पनिपरीरि सनि रि सनि सदा पदधनि नि सरि रि सनि प मणि प गाम प हंसं तथापि गतमानस संगरागम् हंसं तथापि गतमानस संगरागम् दण्डं विनैव यतीनं बत दण्डपाणिं दुःखादितारकं हरिम्बत तारकस्य दण्डं विनैव यतीनम् नमो रमण.
Namo Ramana. We continue with the Ramananjali Sangeeta. The first song in this section will be by Savitri Krishna and Jai Shri Ram Krishna, and the second one by Dr. Vaishnavi Purna.
అన్నామలయని పిలచిన క్షణమున వశపరచుకుంటివి తను మనముల. అన్నామలయని పిలచిన క్షణమున వశపరచుకుంటివి తను మనముల. నిన్ను నమ్మిన నాకే లోటున్నది ఏమున్నది నే కోరవలసినది. నిన్ను నమ్మిన నాకే లోటున్నది ఏమున్నది నే కోరవలసినది. అన్నామలయని పిలచిన క్షణమున వశపరచుకుంటివి తను మనముల. ఏది సుగుణమో ఏది దోషమో నీవు వినా నేనన్యమెరుంగనో. ఏది సుగుణమో ఏది దోషమో నీవు వినా నేనన్యమెరుంగనో. నీవే నా సర్వము ప్రాణము నీ పాదములే నాకు శరణ్యము. నీవే నా సర్వము ప్రాణము నీ పాదములే నాకు శరణ్యము. అన్నామలయని పిలచిన క్షణమున వశపరచుకుంటివి తను మనమున. అన్నామలై అన్నామలై. ఓం నమో భగవతే శ్రీ.
Namo Ramana. I have taken the song Adi Antyagalu Illada Linga, a Kannada translation of the Tamil original written by Sri Sadhu, and the Kannada translation is by Sri J.H.P. Acharya, set to music by Srimati Sulochana Natarajan. Sri Sadhu Om sees Sri Bhagavan Ramana as the Adi Antamilla Shivalingam, and I am singing the Kannada translation. ಆದಿಯಂತ್ಯಗಳು ಇಲ್ಲದ ಲಿಂಗ ರಮಣ ರೂಪ ಅರುಣಾಚಲ ಲಿಂಗ. ಆದಿಯಂತ್ಯಗಳು ಇಲ್ಲದ ಲಿಂಗ ರಮಣ ರೂಪ ಅರುಣಾಚಲ ಲಿಂಗ. ಆದಿಯಂತ್ಯಗಳು ಇಲ್ಲದ ಲಿಂಗ ಹರಿಭ್ರಮ ನೋಡಿದ ಅಗ್ನಿಲಿಂಗ. ಆದಿಯಂತ್ಯಗಳು ಇಲ್ಲದ ಲಿಂಗ ಹರಿಭ್ರಮ ನೋಡಿದ ಅಗ್ನಿಲಿಂಗ. ಜ್ಯೋತಿ ಸದಾ ಶಿವ ಜ್ಯೋತಿರ್ಲಿಂಗ ಸೂಕ್ಷ್ಮಾತ್ಮ ಸ್ವರೂಪದ ಲಿಂಗ. ಜ್ಯೋತಿ ಸದಾ ಶಿವ ಜ್ಯೋತಿರ್ಲಿಂಗ ಸೂಕ್ಷ್ಮಾತ್ಮ ಸ್ವರೂಪದ ಲಿಂಗ. ಅರ್ಧನರೀಶ್ವರ ಈ ಶಿವಲಿಂಗ ಮಾರ್ಗಶಿರದಲ್ಲಿ ಉದ್ಭವಲಿಂಗ ನಾದ ಸ್ವರೂಪ ಈಶ್ವರಲಿಂಗ ರಮಣ ರೂಪ ಅರುಣಾಚಲಲಿಂಗ ಆದಿಯಂತ್ಯಗಳು ಇಲ್ಲದ ಲಿಂಗ ರಮಣ ರೂಪ ಅರುಣಾಚಲಲಿಂಗ ಸುಂದರ ಸುವರ್ಣ ಶೋಭಿತ ಲಿಂಗ ಶುದ್ಧ ಮನದಲ್ಲಿ ಸುಖೋದ್ಭವ ಲಿಂಗ ಸುಂದರ ಸುವರ್ಣ ಶೋಭಿತ ಲಿಂಗ ಶುದ್ಧ ಮನದಲ್ಲಿ ಸುಖೋದ್ಭವ ಲಿಂಗ ಸುರನರ ಪೂಜಿತ ಸುರುಚಿರ ಲಿಂಗ ಜನನ ಮರಣ ವಿಮುಕ್ತಿದ ಲಿಂಗ ಸುರನರ ಪೂಜಿತ ಸುರುಚಿರ ಲಿಂಗ ಜನನ ಮರಣ ವಿಮುಕ್ತಿದ ಲಿಂಗ ಬಂಧ ವಿಮೋಚಕ ಈ ಶಿವಲಿಂಗ ಯೋಗಿ ಜನಾನಂದ ಈ ಶಿವಲಿಂಗ ಈ ಭಾರತದಲ್ಲಿ ಪವಿತ್ರ ಲಿಂಗ ರಮಣ ರೂಪ ಅರುಣಾಚಲ ಲಿಂಗ ಆದಿಯಂತ್ಯಗಳು ಇಲ್ಲದ ಲಿಂಗ ರಮಣ ರೂಪ ಅರುಣಾಚಲ ಲಿಂಗ ರಮಣ ರೂಪ ಅರುಣಾಚಲ ಲಿಂಗ ರಮಣ ರೂಪ ಅರುಣಾಚಲ ಲಿಂಗ. ನಮೋ ರಮಣ.
Namo Ramana. We go on to the sharing, reading and sharing by Sri Nandakumarji.
Namo Ramana. In this our book reading segment of this satsang, we continue to read from Fresh Discoveries, Western Seekers on Sri Ramana Maharshi, a compilation by our founder president, Sri A.R. Natarajanji. We had completed the penultimate segment in the last reading, that was the account by Dr. David Frawley. Today we are embarking on the final segment, which will take a week or two. This is Timeless Presence, Master Nome. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that correctly. N-O-M-E. Timeless Presence, Master Nome. Silence. Absolute silence. Eternal silence. This is Sri Bhagavan's presence. Unfettered by time or space, this presence transcends the illusory boundaries of life and death. Making itself known, it destroys delusion and bondage and brings liberation from all imagination, from all that is unreal. Shri Bhagavan's presence is the presence of Shiva himself, the reality of Brahman itself. The effect of his perpetual silence is impossible to measure, as the silence itself is beyond all mental conception. His every word, glance, and motion is permeated by this silence. Yet, the silence itself is indefinable, ungraspable in terms of body, speech, and mind. His silent presence allows no one to stand apart from it. His silent presence allows no one to stand apart from it. One is altogether consumed. The only complete knowing of the silence is in direct experience, in which the individual is no more. In this silence, no notion prevails, not even the slightest trace, and its flood of peace and unalterable happiness completely eliminates the individual and its labyrinth tale of unendurable lives and deaths without number. In this silence, all that is objective and the I return to their source. In this silence, all that is objective and the I return to their source and the birthless, deathless, creationless reality comprehends itself. In this silence, the only reality, nothing else has ever been, is, or will ever be. His grace is unbounded. It operates in countless ways incomprehensible to the mind. Its scope, touching and illuminating so many lives in so many ways, whether recognized for what it is or invisible to the ideas of the perceiver, causes one to stand in thought-free awe for a timeless moment before prostrating without hesitation in a full blissful namaskar. I'll read that sentence again. The scope of His grace, touching and illuminating so many lives in so many ways, whether recognized for what it is or invisible to the ideas of the perceiver, causes one to stand in thought-free awe for a timeless moment before prostrating without hesitation in full blissful namaskara. His grace knows no impediment because of its omnipotence and its omnipresence. His grace, which is identical to His presence, is ineffable in its blissfulness, inconceivable in its vastness, unfathomable in its depth, immeasurable in its compassion, illimitable in its power, indisputable in its truth, and unalterable in its eternity. By grace alone is liberation from the imagined bondage attained. By grace alone is there realization of the true self. By grace alone does meditation occur and the profound inquiry, who am I, succeed in awakening one from the dream of an ego with its illusory world appearance. By grace alone, devotion arises in the heart. By grace alone is there freedom, happiness, and peace. With grace, He has revealed the teaching, which is the direct experience of reality and the quintessence of Advaita Vedanta. With grace, Bhagavan has revealed the teaching, which is the direct experience of reality and the quintessence of Advaita Vedanta. It is the self-own knowledge of the self, of the nature of being, consciousness, bliss. In graceful silence, Bhagavan revealed it, His own existence, and by His grace, His precious words of instruction have been preserved in the hearts of disciples and devotees. The very books and pictures that are so sacred to us all are due to His grace. That we should have the opportunity to see them, to meditate upon them, and experience their significance is all by His grace alone. To our Guru, the Master without rival, we can never be too thankful. We should always be grateful, says the author. His wisdom is supreme. Not a question or doubt, misconception or notion, sankalpa or vikalpa, misidentification or attachment can remain when His wisdom is met. His wisdom is supreme. Not a question or doubt, misconception or notion, sankalpa or vikalpa, misidentification or attachment can remain when His wisdom is met. There is nothing like it. There are doubtlessly sages who realized the identical blissful knowledge, but there is nothing similar to that which, when realized, is sole existent. In non-duality, there can be no comparison or contrast, or there is no differentiation. This self-knowledge is perfect, and there is nothing beyond it, for it is that in which knowing and being are one and the same. If one neither adds to it, appends a limiting notion to it, nor subtracts from it, the perfect fullness shines resplendent. The Maharishi reveals this self-knowledge always. In it, there is neither duality nor triads, neither concept nor anything else. Though the self is non-objective, he nevertheless reveals it in utter clarity. Though in truth there are not two such things as path and attainment, he nonetheless reveals the way to abide steadily in that blissful true knowledge for all of us, and guides his disciples and devotees in a divine unfailing manner, enabling them to know the unknown knower of all. I'll repeat this strange paradox, but such a helpful paradox it is. So nicely revealed by the author. Though the self is non-objective, Bhagavan nonetheless reveals it in utter clarity. Though in truth there are not two such things as path and attainment, Bhagavan nonetheless reveals the way to abide steadily in that blissful true knowledge for all of us, and guides his disciples and devotees in a divine, unfailing manner, enabling them to know the unknown knower of all. What a wonderful grace. With this knowledge, there is nothing else to know, and the peaceful bliss that is continuously experienced leaves no other happiness to be desired. With this knowledge, the supreme knowledge, there is nothing else to know, and the peaceful bliss that is continuously experienced leaves no other happiness to be desired. I cannot say when I first met Bhagavan, or when Maharishi's presence first started to influence the life, or when he first came to me. These are the ways in which the devotees narrate their experiences to us in all fairness. Of course, the author is going to the extent of negating all that. Why, we will see. To say it happened suddenly seemed to deny his ever-present nature. To say it happened gradually seems to deny the evident fact that he is always present in his entirety. To speak of a sudden event or a gradual growth of that presence in this life has no rationale. There were memories from before and a distinct vivid feeling of familiarity with places, images, words, etc. associated with Sri Ramana, as there must be for ever so many disciples and devotees. Author says he does remember those events, yet to place emphasis on such here would be to accord some dust of belief in an ongoing jiva, which his grace and truth have irrefutably proved to be non-existent. So the author is denying the need to emphasize any particular event in the journey with Bhagavan, because that will only mean that his jiva was there at some point, which Bhagavan says was never existent. For us, with the life of his grace and truth, every moment is profound. Each moment he reveals himself anew in his entirety, beyond the illusions of time conjured up by the mirage of the mind. And always what is revealed is the ever same self. It is neither new nor old, neither reached nor ever lost, but ever the case with the self or Brahman, the knowledge, and our Bhagavan, indistinguishably one, utterly indivisible. Brahman and our Bhagavan, it is neither new nor old, neither reached nor ever lost, but ever the case with the self or Brahman, the knowledge, and our Bhagavan, indistinguishably one, utterly indivisible. I can only say that he has always been there. There was a time when the presence, the perfect fullness of truth and grace was not known. Then it revealed itself. The one who did not know, his ignorance and his time being unreal, simply vanished by the illuminative power of that truth and grace of Bhagavan. The joy of the disciple consists in his unimportance and non-existence, with the sole existence and all importance of his Guru is his non-dual bliss. Sometimes one hears a seeker ask if there is a stage when the Guru is no longer necessary. The answer is that a stage is reached when the disciple is no longer necessary. Hearing a story is captivating for the mind. If the story is endowed with wisdom, such as are the stories told by Vasishta and the episodes related in the Upanishads, and of course the sublime story of our Guru, the Maharishi, the mind is led by the story beyond all the stories. It is just as when a decoy deer has been displayed to capture the deer. Any story about a disciple or a devotee serves only to further the glory of the wondrous Guru. We do not focus upon the transitory, illusory body of the disciple or devotee, or upon the dreamlike illusions of the events and objects depicted in the story, or upon the unreal personality and individuality of him or her. Rather, we find ourselves reveling in the liberating presence of our Guru, our Bhagavan, immersed in his sweet grace, with each story being in some way our own. So the author is suggesting how we should read the accounts of the co-travelers in the path of Bhagavan, the other devotees. Always the emphasis is on the wondrous glory of the Guru and never on the achievements in the sadhana of the disciple or the progress that they have made by their effort or any such thing. That is how we should look at those accounts, says the author. Whenever I am asked to give some story that pertains in the least to my life, there is the distinct feeling that there is nothing to be said. This is so because, firstly, all the events can be told from ever so many perspectives. These are all 4 or 5 points he adduces as to how lightly we should hold on to the story we are telling. Because it is only one point of view, very nicely the author is going to point out why our stories of events are only one perspective, it is not total reality. I'll read this. Whenever I am asked to give some story that pertains in the least to my life, there is the distinct feeling that there is nothing to be said. This is so because, firstly, all the events can be told from ever so many perspectives. Secondly, because the events themselves are unreal. And thirdly, as disciples and devotees, our only real story is our dissolution and merger with him, like a river when it joins the ocean. Fourthly, there is truly no one born, living or dying, about whom to say anything, the unreal adventures of a phantom man in the city of clouds. With that, we will end today's reading, but we will read this back and continue this beautiful account of this author, which accounts in a very unique way about the Ajata. From the Ajata perspective itself, he seems to be writing. So it is interesting to read this particular mode of presentation also. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya.
Namo Ramana. I have earlier also read this account by Numiji, but I thank Nandakumarji for the emphasis and the manner in which this the Ajata perspective has been narrated. So while reading, it sometimes feels little heavy because each sentence is so full of that, just that self-experience. But it came alive, and also it brought to us the memories of Master Nomi, who has been a great friend of our center, who has been here, and 2-3 times he has visited Ramanacentre Center for Learning, and he continues to be a great friend of Ramanacentre Center for Learning. So it's a personal touch for me and all others who have interacted with him as well. Thank you. Namo Ramana. We continue today's satsang with the self-inquiry session by Dilip Sinha.
Namo Ramana. Dhyayet Sharada Chandra Sundara Mukam Tambrara Vindekshanam Bhakta Bhishtavara Bhaya Pradakaram कौपीनमात्रोज्ज्वलम् स्वात्मानन्दरसानुभूतिविवशम् सर्वानवद्याङ्गकम् श्रीमन्तं श्रीरमणेश्वरं गुरुवरम् योगासनाध्यासितम् ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणेश्वरम् ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणेश्वरम् ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणेश्वरम् हृदयकुहरमध्ये केवलं ब्रह्ममात्रम् यहमहमिति साक्षातात्मरूपेण भाति हृदि विषमनसा स्वं चिन्वतामज्जताव पवनचलनरोधा आत्मनिष्ठो भवत्वम्. We'll commence today's evening Atma Vichara by listening to Bhagavan's Upadesham. I'll be reading from Guru Vachaka Kovai from the chapter Meditation on the Truth. The topic for the evening is the benefit of Gnana bestowing Vairagya. Verse 839. What a wonder! The sadhu who has a majestic mind and who moves about with no possessions, feeling, I do not want anything, confounds the understanding of a king who deserves to be much pitied because of the anxieties that whirl his mind. I repeat, what a wonder! The sadhu who has a majestic mind and who moves about with no possessions, feeling, I do not want anything, confounds the understanding of a king who deserves to be much pitied because of the anxieties that whirl his mind. Bhagavan is here bringing our attention to the need of attending only to the self. Even though the reference here is given of a king, but whoever, because everybody is nothing but the self, if we let go that and go towards and hold anxiety towards what the mind, the body, and the world has to bring, then we have to be pitied, says Bhagavan, because we are the self. And if we can just remain in that pristine state, to reach that pristine state, Bhagavan is saying, if a sadhu, if a sadhaka, if he holds on to no possessions, if he has in a state of mind where he says, I do not want anything other than my own state, he is actually in a very majestic state, says Bhagavan, because it is close to the Gnana bestowing Vairagya. It is Vairagya which is so close that having denied all the objective things, this sadhaka is only just merged one with that self and enjoying that gnana bestowing vairagya. From there, the very next step would be to become sahaja, to recognize that the self is natural, even in the midst of all this anxieties and everything, the self is silent, as Master Nome brought to our attention and read out by Nandakumarji, and it is always present, and there has been no change at it, no matter what the mind, the body, and the world drama happened around it, but it only happened in the waking state, so therefore it is not real. And what was real is that silence, that self, which is always there, preeminent to everything. So Bhagavan is asking us to turn our attention from this world back to that self which alone is. All these phenomena is going to rise and fall and not real. Therefore, these phenomena predominantly rise in the form of the thought, and the foremost of that thought is the I thought. That first division where there is absolutely no division in reality. So Bhagavan asks us, for every thought that rises within us, to inquire to whom is this thought. When we do so, we recognize this thought is for me, not for somebody next to me or anybody else for that matter. So then that individual division that has taken place as an identity is brought to our attention. And then Bhagavan asks us to further inquire, who am I? What do I really refer to as I? That is the Gnana bestowing Vairagya, where we move the attention away from that thought of individuality to the source of the I, the reality that gives the I the reality too. When we inquire, who am I? We turn our attention from this imaginary I to that real I, that which is that being consciousness, which alone shines, whether it is waking, dream, or sleep. And when by repeatedly turning our attention from all these anxiety causing things back to that self where there is no division, no object, where that alone shines as a vast space of bliss, Bhagavan asks us to repeatedly turn to it and hold it by this Atma Vichara. The immense grace of Bhagavan, for the next 10 minutes, let us all do Atma Vichara. revathi Shri Ramanaya Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana. We go on to the sharing by Sri Venkatesh Deshpande of Adi Shankara's Hastamalaka, also translated by Bhagavan into Tamil, the Hastamalaka.
Dakshinamurti Sarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Ramanacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhasha Kruto Vande Bhagwanto Punaha Punaha. Om. We're doing Manana on Hastamalaka. In the last session, what we in the verse number 1, where Shankaracharya asks the little boy 5 questions. He asks, "Who are you? Whom do you belong to? Where are you going or heading? What is your name? From where have you come?" So this was what Shankaracharya asked the little boy. So basically, he wanted Shankaracharya obviously knew that he was in a state of being in the self, but it had not manifested. So Shankaracharya asked this question, and we will see the verse number 2 where the little boy answered these questions. So can we have Sapna chant the verse number 2, please?
Yes, sir. Atha Hasthamalakastotram Naham Manushyo na cha deva yakshau na brahmana kshatriya vaishya shudraha na brahmachari na gruhiva nastho bhikshur na chaham nija bodha rupaha naham manushyo na cha deva yakshau na brahmana kshatriya vaishya shudraha na brahmachari na gruhiva nastho bhikshurna chaham nija bodha rupaha. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sapna. So this is a typical answer. It's in a finite way. He's trying to say that I'm not this, I'm not this, I'm not this, and finally trying to say that he is the infinite. It's something like there's a game called Damsharads which we play in RMC also when we are traveling to Tiruvannamalai. We play this game. Damsharads is one person who's mimicking and the others who are guessing. So if you were given to mimic the air all around you, the air. So if you have to do this, what do? How do you show the air? Now, if somebody would say, "Oh, you should hold the nose," and say, "Oh, that's bad smell." So the bad smell, or there is a smell, or is a good smell, it's in the air. But if somebody holds the air, this nose, do they understand it is the mimicking person will say, no, that's not that. So similarly, what happens? Then he'll show the clouds, and the clouds will say, no, that's not the cloud. That is not the air. So exactly the same thing. So what Hastamalaka has done in the first verses said, neti, I am not this, I am not this, I am not this, I am not this. And finally he says that who I am. So basically what the fundamental thing about this shloka is that he is the infinite. He is the self. And like beautifully what Anand Kumar read and what we practiced with Dilip, that's the crux of this verse also. where he says that I am not this, I am not that. So the first verse is, I am not a man, I am not the body, but I am the Supreme Self, the Paramatma in the body. Like Bhagavan says, Hridaya Kuhara Madhya Kevalam Brahma Matram. So I am the self, I am the Supreme Self, the Paramatma in the body, within and without. So as we all understand, when we start this whole journey, Bhagavan says that you need to go within so that you're able to focus on the spiritual heart. And then you understand, as you keep doing manana there, you understand that there is no within and without. As the Upanishads also indicate, Atman to be bodiless in the body. So in the Kathopanishad, it says that it is the bodiless among the bodies. Among all the bodies that we see, it is bodiless, existing through the body, inside the body also. So he's inside the body and outside, stable among all unstable things in the world. The great universal all-pervading being, knowing it, great heroes do not grieve. So this is what is written in the Kathopanishad. So what is important here to understand is there is an infinite and there is a manifest of the infinite into finite. So when the infinite has manifest, so for example, the water in the ocean has manifested as the wave, and it is manifested as the cloud, has manifested as the snow, as the ice, as the river. Everything is, and it finally comes back to the source. But what is it finally? It is the water. So exactly the same thing. So what Hastamalaka is saying the same thing, as Upanishads indicate, Atman to be the bodiless in the body. So it is the bodiless in the body, it is the gold in the ornament, it is the water in the rain, it is the whatever. If you look at all the different things that we experience in life, it is the cotton in the shirt, but we don't see the cotton in the shirt. We don't see the cotton, no, because we should see the shirt, we say, oh, it's got a logo, which brand it is, and how much does it cost, which shop did you buy it from, all those things. We don't see the cotton. So that's what here, this paragraph is all about that. So you have to really go within to be able to understand this paragraph. And I'm neither God nor a semi-celestial being. I do not belong to the class of gods like Indra, Varuna, or Yama, as their existence is because of me, the consciousness. As such, even Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesha are part of me, the consciousness. I am the source of both the world and the Lord of the world. So again, is pointing to the same thing. I am neither a Brahman, nor a Kshatriya, nor a Vaishya, nor a Shudra. I am not a Brahman, as he gets his Brahmanhood because of my Satchit nature. A Brahman is worshipped only due to the splendor of the self in him. I am the self-effulgent Brahman, light of the lights. I am not a Kshatriya, but the warrior in a Kshatriya. I am not a Vaishya, but the wealth of a Vaishya. I am not a low-caste Shudra, but below the Shudra, substratum of all. So this is a beautiful explanation that has been given about not being a Brahman. See, these Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudras are all labels. Like somebody says, I am a devotee of Bhagavan. I am anything that you say are just labels on this body. So, but what is your real reality? That Satchidananda Atman, that self, that is your actual reality. But we don't see that. Why? Because nothing to hold inside. So, but this little boy is in a state where he's doing neti neti in the first few lines, and the last line he explains who he really is. I'm not a brahmachari. One who abstains from even touching women is called a brahmachari. Due to the greatness of myself, Atma Swarupa, is the greatness of celibacy, brahmacharya. Enjoying the bliss of Atma, which is one in both men and women, I remain firm in brahmacharya, naishtaka brahmacharya. The world of names and form is only apparent in me, the substratum, even as the pictures of a bride and bridegroom painted on a wall are illusory. So Bhagavan he says that everything is actually illusory. So that's why I am a brahmachari. I'm not a brahmachari. I'm not a householder. A householder is one who's attached to his body, house, wealth, wife, and other worldly things. I am present in all of them as an unattached witness, the Sakshi. I reside in all the three worlds. I'm not a forest dweller. A Vanaprasthi is one who stays in a forest. I'm the one whose existence, the things and beings of the forest exists. I am the one by whose existence the things and the beings of the forest exist. I'm not a mendicant. I am not a sannyasi who is ordained by the Vedas to get alms, bhiksha, and not to use fire for cooking. But I am that eternal sannyasi who has burnt without burning the fire karmas of the past sanchita and of the future agami karmas. So finally he says, this little boy says that I am of the nature of self-knowledge, anticipating the inquiry of the Acharya. If you are not a god, a man, a yaksha, not belonging to the four varnas classes or ashramas stages of life, then whom are you? The boy asserts in the last line of the verse, I am the pure self-effulgent, ever-existing self-awareness. So this is what the boy, this is the state in which the boy is. He is, I am the pure self-effulgent, ever-existing self-awareness. So when we do that little exercise of expanding our consciousness, we are sitting on our little chairs and we expand our consciousness to the room. Okay, now we suddenly we are not this little body and we are expand into this room, and suddenly let us expand our consciousness to Bangalore. So where is this room now? Room vanishes. Where is this body? Body vanishes. But you are in this Bangalore or whichever city you are. And then you expand that to India. And suddenly your consciousness has grown from the little body to India. And then you expand that to Asia, that your consciousness. Then where is India? India is not there. So and then you expand that to the universe. When you expand to the universe, then you and your consciousness just expands. Then all these little things, all these little problems of yours, these little issues, they just vanish. But you say I am. Because of you who says I am, you can experience this vastness of consciousness. So that's what he's trying to say, that I am the pure self-effulgent, ever-existing self-awareness. So he is continuously abiding in the self, because he knows that is the only truth. Everything is a passing show. That is only the Sat. Everything is Asat. And in this, that's why we say Satsangh. Why do we say Satsangh? Because we are seeking the truth, and we are seeking what? The truth is always there. It can never be a false. So the truth is always there. So important thing that we need to understand as devotees is that all that we see through our mind and our senses are all untrue. They are not the truth. They may be there, but they're all passing. It's like the movie going on the screen. But you are that witness. You are that consciousness. You are that silence. You are that Atman. You are that self within, which is pure self-effulgent and ever-existing self-awareness. May Bhagavan, with all his kindness, make us move from Bahir Mukha to Antar Mukha, and be always abiding in the self. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
Namo Ramana. We move on to the next sharing by Dr. Kallarani Rangaswamy.
ஓம் நமோ பகவதே ஸ்ரீ ரமணாய. அருணாச்சலமென அகமே நினைப்பவர் அகத்தை வேறறுப்பாய் அருணாச்சல. Namo Ramana to all. With the abundance grace of Bhagavan, we are meditating on Devi Kalotra Jnana Vichara Padalam, very generously given to us by Ramana in Tamil. And the last satsang we saw, when one attains Nirvishaya Jnanam, after coming out of the Vishaya Jnana, he enjoys the all-pervading nature of the self. In that state, even if he does not want mukti, and even if he do not aspire for mukti, what does mukti do? It goes to him without fail and be with him. Because in that state, Bhagavan says, the person will have no likes and dislikes. He does not consider anything as his own wish. He says there is no difference between any wish and the God's wish, because he sees only God, the Atman, the Self, everywhere, and there is no time and space at all in that state. I'll tell you a small instance. A disciple, he became very vexed and was profusely crying to his guru, saying he still could not realize the truth. He did not attain jnana. Guru said, be patient. Let us wait. No, he could not bear this disappointment. He said, I am going to fall from the temple tower. This janma is at utter waste. So he climbed on to the temple tower. He stood at the top, nearly 300-350 feet height, and he lifted his left leg and was about to fall down from the temple tower. At that juncture, what he did, he completely surrendered himself to God. So, neither he was aware of his body, neither he was aware of where he was standing, what he is going to do. At that blank space, he could realize the truth, because there is no time and space there that is realized by him. At that point, he did not have any thought of attaining moksha, but moksha did not leave him. Then he realized the truth, climbed down running from the top floor of the temple tower, reached his guru, prostrated, with completely soaked in bliss. Such is the greatness of attaining Nirvishaya Jnana. In the next stanza, Bhagavan says, Irikkiren en kalayodu eintha chaitanya guru sakti. Being as one's own self is the true jnana. Otherwise, if one thinks that this is I and that is not me, and this is not actually jnana, Bhagavan says it is imaginary jnana. Even in Ulladu 40, Bhagavan beautifully explains, Adu nee endru ammareigal aarthidavum. Upanishad declares that the great Paravastu could, we may call it as Brahma, as you alone, because Atma alone exists. But Mahavakyas, Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasi, they may all help us for doing dhyanam and thamam. But of course, beautifully Bhagavan says how these Mahavakyas should be made use of. In this Ulanapad stanza, Bhagavan says, say for example, let us take Tattvamasi, that is you. Bhagavan says immediately when someone gets this Upadesa, the human conscious is that it will ever always question. Isn't it? When someone gets Upadesa, that is you, means immediately the question arises, which is that? And he started questioning, who am I? So Bhagavan says the very purpose of Mahavakya is to make the sadhaka to inquire within, to do Atma Vichara, because Bhagavan says truth can only be experienced and it cannot be attained by imaginaries. Oh, self, Atma will be like that. It will be like a river or like that mountain. No, as it is the pure existence only. When a person becomes that existence and realize that there is nothing other than that existence, including himself, he will be able to be in his natural state that he is experienced by, that he has to experience by himself. Any amount of teaching or Upadesa is not going to serve the purpose. It can only guide. Gadi vedi kanvikum. That's all. So say for example, one has not yet tasted sweet at all since he was born. He asked his family members, how will be a sweet like? Each one started explaining to him. His brother said, oh, it will taste very nice. It will be very sweet. His sister said, sweet can be tasted in varied forms, you know. It can be tasted in jangri, globe jam, milk sweet, and all. And his father entered from his office and saw everyone trying to explain what is a sweet like. And he simply said, you must have tasted sugar, isn't it? It will be like that. He never knew that his son had not yet tasted sugar also. At last, his mother came with a milk sweet. Open your mouth, listen to me, taste this, and you will understand what is a sweet. And that is the greatness of mother, because she made her son experience the sweetness. Any amount of explanation would not have served, isn't it? So God, Guru and mothers, they only Guru can show us the direct path and ask us to dive deep into the heart and find out for yourself who are you. And there are, by experience, your own existence. And this is Atman, self, Brahman, whatever we may call. In other words, Bhagavan says, when the mind merges with Swarupa, and where the destruction of ego takes place, what remains will be Brahman, and he is not separate from you at all. Both you and Brahman are one. And making the sadhaka to realize this is the aim of the Mahavakyas. So sadhaka who is not strong, as Dilip ji beautifully says, the magnificent, majestic mind, and with no vairagya, if the mind doesn't have that majestic tendency or the vairagya, when he come across the Mahavakya, he will be just doing japa, saying that is me and this is not me. And at the same time, sadhaka who are bent on knowing themselves with great vairagya, and when they come across this Mahavakya, as Tattvamasi, that is you, he immediately asks himself within, which is I. And by inquiring, he becomes Brahma and be Brahma at that time. Volivide Udakam beautifully describes a person whose mind is not strong, whose mind is not with vairagya. Sudinum Vazhai Kaka. How big the fire may be, It cannot burn the inner part of the plantain tree, what we call the vaழத்தண்டு. வேதி மட்கலத்து காக்காவாறு ஏழை காக்கத்து. A mud vessel, any amount of treatment cannot be made to be a golden vessel. Likewise, a person with a weak mind, without any vairagya, will not be able to realize that he is none other than the self. Because instead of surrendering the mind to Swarupa, he will be making all sorts of comparisons, arguments. And he says, oh, that is me and that is not I. And doing dhyana. And remember, for doing dhyana, there must be mind. And doing japa, with doing japa, it will increase the life of the mind. But truth is realized only in the destruction of mind, that is in manonasha, or merging of the mind with the Swarupa. That's what Bhagavan has taught us. So let's all be with strong vairagya and make use of the Mahavakya to be Anma itself. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana.
We continue the satsang with a sharing by Sri Udwal Jagdish on Ganapati Muni's Ramanacentre Bengaluru.
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Ramanaya Loka Gurave Namaha. Ramanaya Loka Gurave Namaha. Ramanaya Loka Gurave Namaha. Ramanaya Loka Gurave Namaha. Yana Yatrana Ke Kulapati Snanayana Swarnadi Panaya Shritibrim Mahendra Duhitur Nastanya Dugdamritam Ganaya Pramateshwara Savayas Sovivatra Veena Vrito Vasam Shonagirau Karoshi Bhagavan Kraunchadripeta Kutaha Ramanaya Loka Gurave Namaha. Ramanaya Loka Gurave Namaha. ಪಯಣಿಸಲು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮಯೂರ ರಾಜನಿಲ್ಲ, ನೀಯಲು ಗಂಗೆ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಪಯಣಿಸಲು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮಯೂರ ರಾಜನಿಲ್ಲ, ನೀಯಲು ಗಂಗೆ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಪಾನ ಮಾಡಲು ಗಿರಿರಾಜ ಸುತೆಯ ದುಗ್ಧಾಮೃತವೂ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಸ್ತನ್ಯಾಮೃತವೂ ಇಲ್ಲ. This verse by Ganapati Muni is set to the raga Hemavati. The Hemavati is the name for Parvati, who is the daughter of Himavan Maharaja. And that's why she is called Hemavati. And there is also mention of Ganga, who emerges from the Himalayas. So she is also the daughter of Himalaya. So she is also called Hemavati. That's why these verses next to the 13th and the 14th verses are set to Hemavati Raga by Srimati Sulochana Natarajan. In this verse, Ganapati Muni is describing Ramana as Subramanya. You are Subramanya or Ramana, but why have you come to this Arunachala and abiding here? Here, you don't have any of the comforts that you enjoyed in your father's place, Kailasa. There is no the Mayura Raja. The Kekinam Pati is not here to take you here and there all around the world. He is not there. And there is no Ganga to play and to have to bathe in Ganga. There is no Ganga here. And there is not even the grace, the milk of grace, the milk of jnana that you used to drink from Parvati. That is also not available here. And there is no new the Pramata Gana of your own age who is to play a beautiful melodious veena. There is none of your Pranas from whom you can listen to this beautiful music. Have you come here to Shonachala? Why have you come to Arunachala? Here says Ganapati Muni. Ask Ganapati Muni. Subramanya Swarupa. And last class we were thing that Ramana has reached where he has to reach. We know the story of how he, as soon as there was a competition that who will go around the world quickly and come, they will get the Jnana Palam. Muruga was the first one to get on to the peacock mount, the Mayura Raja, and he quickly set out his journey to go around the world. But what did Ganapati do? Ganapati realized that the whole world is embedded in his mother and father, who is the Jagan Mata Pita. And he went around Shiva and Parvati and he took the Jnana Palam. There is another version which Ramana says that Ganapati actually came to Tiruvannamalai. He came to Arunachala. Arunachala is the hill where the Shiva and Shakti are one. They are one. So he realized this truth and he went round the Giri Pradakshina, around Tiruvannamalai, around the Arunachala mountain. Then he got this Jnana Palam. So although we hear in the story that Muruga became angry and he set out his journey down south from Kailasa, he came to south of India. On the journey, Muruga would have realized the truth which his brother Subramanya, his brother Ganesha has showed. So he realized and he has come to Arunachala. He has understood that Ramana himself says that in Skanda Puranam it is told that if you go around Arunachala, it gives you all the benefits of going around the world, going around to all the sacred places all around the world. So here Ramana, having understood this and to reveal this glory that he has understood to everyone in the world, Ramana has come to Arunachala and he does not have any desire to go around anywhere else. So he has dropped his peacock mount, the Mayura Raja at Kailasa. You be there. I don't need your services, he has told, and he has come to Arunachala to stay here. And here there is no Ganga. The Ganga and Subramanya have a very close connection. Because we know that in the story, the spark from the third eye of Shiva, it fell and it was taken to the Ganges. And the Ganges took this spark of light in the lotuses and it dropped those sparks as little babies, 6 little babies into the Sharavana garden. So that's why, because he has the Ganga has a role to play in the birth of Subramanya. He's also called Gangeya, one who was born in Ganga. And Ganapati Muni is asking, oh Ramana, there is no Ganga for you to take bath. Why have you come here to Arunachala? Great devotees and scholars, and even our Kameshwar Mama has sometimes shared with us, saying that Arunachala is the still Ganga, and Ganga is flowing Arunachala. So Arunachala and Ganga are really not separate, although they may look different, but both of them are the very embodiment of the self. They remind us of that Achala Tattva, the Dakshina Murti Tattva, which the Arunachala reveals to us. And Ganga is the Nataraja Tattva, which brings joy, which brings prosperity through every movement of it. That is the Nataraja Tattva, which the Ganga flows. Both Dakshinamurti and Nataraja are the very same power of Shiva, which embodies differently to reveal their beauty as Achala Tattva and the Tattva of constant movement. But in one of our dance ballet production, Ramana Leela, Dr. Sharda has visualized the life of Ramana as the flow of Ganga. We see that the Tiruchuli is the Gangotri, where the Ganga, the Jnana Ganga, takes its birth. And later we see that there are various holy spots. Wherever the Ganga flows, it makes that place holy. So we see in life of Ramana that he came to Dindigal and he showed his leelas there at Dindigal too, where he showed the greatness of his sleep. It was like trance, that he forgot everything that was happening around and he was ever in that abiding in the self, in his deep sleep. And when he got up, he never knew what happened. Even if his friends had taken him to a different place and beaten him up, he never used to know what had happened in that state of supreme trance. And later, we see that he came to that place of Dindigal is compared to the Haridwar and Rishikesh. And later we come to a very auspicious place, very sacred place, which is called Kashi. That is the Madurai Meenakshipura, where he got enlightened. And we have a special place in the journey of Ganga, where she turns towards her source. That turns towards her source is said to be very, very auspicious. That place is called the Uttara Kashi, where the Ganga, which is flowing towards the sea, takes a turn and she turns back to her source. And Ramana, who was ever abiding in his source, ever had this Purana of Arunachala, he was turned to the source by the instruction given by his relative who came to his house, saying that Arunachala is a place on earth. And Ramana, with his experience of death, understood that he is not this body, he is that Achala Tattva which is ever shining in him. So that is the Uttara Kashi in the life of Bhagavan Ramana. And then the Ganga flows and at last reaches the Sagara. That place is Arunachala, where Ramana reached Arunachala and abided there at Arunachala, never to go away from Arunachala. And when the river Ganga flows and merges at Sagara, and Arunachala is Apara Satchit Sukhavari Rashe, he is that ocean of Apara Satchit Sukha. Once the Ganga merges in the ocean called Arunachala, there is no separation as different rivers, Ganga, Yamuna, Brahmaputra, Godavari, everything becomes the ocean. In that way, Ramana has come to Arunachala, which is the point where all the differences merges and where the mind called, the river called the mind is constantly merging in the self. The union where the Chit, the Shakti is ever merging in the Shiva Tattva, the Achala Tattva, where the Shiva and Parvati are one. And when there is no movement, Ramana has come to that place and he is abiding. So he is not missing Ganga at all. He has come to the source, the real source of Ganga. Ramana says that it is through the sea that the water evaporates and becomes the clouds, and then it comes down and flows as river and reaches back to its original source, the ocean. So Ramana has come to the true source of Ganga. So he is not missing Ganga at all. But the Ganga is missing Ramana. So we have heard from Kalaka that last time she read out a letter from Ramanashram by Suri Nagama, where various tirthas from various sacred rivers and oceans were brought to Ramana. And all these rivers visited Ramana only to sanctify themselves to see Ramana, because they were missing Ramana. And Ramana has blessed all these rivers, and he has come by being abiding at Arunachala, which is the self. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramana.
Namo Ramana. Prostrations to Ramana, shining as a self in all beings. By the immense grace of that self manifest as Ramana, we are meditating on the 108 names, the Ramana Ashtottara Shatanamavali, composed by Vishwanatha Swami. And we were meditating on the namas Sahayamba Sahayavate Namaha, Shonachala Maho Leena Manasaya Namaha. One who is greatly absorbed in the Arunachala Tattva, in Arunachala, or who is ever absorbed in the great Arunachala, Shonachala. And Bhagavan had the Spurana, the name Arunachala, ever shining in his heart. Ever shining in his heart. He says to us in the Ashtakam, Arivar Siruvayadadu Mudal. Even before I knew anything, I knew that Arunachala is something glorious. Arunachalam Miha Peridana. Arivinil Anga. But he said, I did not know what exactly it meant. That would come later. There was no definition of the glory of Arunachala. There was no definition of what it stood for. But there was this glory, and that was identified with the Arunachala Nama. There was in him the awareness of the self, which shone within him in the name of Arunachala. There was no form, there was just the name of Arunachala. There was the glory of Arunachala, and the name Arunachala, Arunachala was ever shining in the heart of this young boy. And because it was so natural to him, he never spoke about it to anybody. And nobody knew that it was shining in his heart. For all practical purposes, there was nothing different about Bhagavan. He seemed to be like any other child. To him also, he did not feel ever different from anybody. And that is how he is even afterwards. Once he is abiding in the self, once Arunachala revealed to him that it is nothing other than his own self, then what happened? Then also it was so natural. And he says that for the Jnani, there is nobody other than him. There is no Ajnani in this world for the Jnani. There is nobody who is an Ajnani. I am a Jnani. Somebody else is an Ajnani. Such a statement or such a thought cannot come to the mind of a Jivan Mukta, because he is abiding in the self, which is all enveloping. He knows that is his nature. There can be nothing apart from it, nothing different from it. So Bhagavan was always natural in the Arunachala Spurana, as he was later natural in his Atmanishta. So as he was having this Arunachala Spurana within himself, it was there, and he was just a natural child. He would play, he would go around, he would be with his brother, he would be with his younger sister, he would take care of her, he would do something for his friends, he would play, he would go to the temple of Kalayar Kovil, that Kalayar temple in his village, and he would guide his friends, or rather very naturally they would perform puja. Everything would happen most naturally. And he grew up in this way with the Arunachala Spurana. But then there was something which marked him out as different. Although he did not speak about the Arunachala Spurana, Ganapati Muni in his biography says that even Sundaram Iyer somewhat recognized that this boy was something extraordinary. There was one thing that the blind midwife had told Aragamma, that this child is extraordinary, he is divine. But people did not particularly pay attention to it after that moment of joy, because he seemed to be quite like any other child, except that there was something about him which attracted everyone to him. Everyone felt his love. Everyone wanted to love him. Everyone wanted to cherish him. That was there. But Sundaram Iyer had noticed that this boy was something, he seemed to have some special power in him, because what he said would come true, even if it was something very casual. Because it seems one day when Sundaram was leaving for work, and in those days, since Sundaram was doing well as a pleader and he was having his own cart, it was a bullock cart. And in those days, a good bullock cart was called a vilbandi. It used to be well furnished. It used to have a nice, a sort of a soft base on to sit on in the place of the seating. And there were obviously some pillows and all over there for the comfort of the traveler. In the higher quality bullock carts, one of which was Sundaramaiar's Vilvandi, as it was called, and there were some pillows over there. Perhaps there were some special pillows as well. And one day when Sundaramaiar was about to leave, Bhagwan pointed to one of the pillows. Young little boy, he pointed to one of the pillows and said, Naina, please take care of that pillow. And Sundaramaiar just casually took that statement. But when he returned at night, he found that pillow was lost. So then his attention went back to the fact that Bhagavan had told him about it in the morning. And he said, this boy, there seems to be some intuitive power in him. But that apart, nobody noticed that Bhagavan was having this inner Shakti, this inner awareness of the glory of Arunachala all the time shining within him. We are also having the Arunachala Shakti, the self, shining within us all the time. But unlike Bhagavan, we are not aware of it. Our mind is not leena in it. Our mind is not merged in it. But his mind was all the time merged in Arunachala, says Vishwanath Swami, Maho Leena Manasaya Namah. His mind was all the time merged in Arunachala Spurana, whatever he may be doing, whatever his activities may be, because it was natural. So that which is natural is all the time there. It doesn't have to be spoken about. It doesn't have to be thought about. Bhagavan says it's as natural as a man feeling that he's a man. He doesn't have to say it at all. In Ulladu Narpadu, he says, does a man go around saying, I'm a man, I'm a man? Because there is no doubt. There is no doubt in us that we are a human being. It is an undercurrent of our existence. That this body is an undercurrent of our existence. As much as that Arunachala Spurana was for Bhagavan. So that is how it was natural. And when we, through the grace of that Arunachala, turn within, then we realize that actual glory of Arunachala. Then our minds too will be drawn within. And we can see that beauty of Arunachala Spurana, because of which Bhagavan's early life was full of joy. And we see that everything that he touched became glorious. That's why Vishwanath Swami goes to the next name, Snahastakaya Namaha. Because of the glory of Arunachala ever shining within him, everywhere around him there was beauty and joy and prosperity as well in Sundaramaya's life, in Aragamma's life, in all their lives. There was initially that external prosperity, but later that golden touch turned to prosperity for the whole universe. That is how that Swarnahasta became manifest as Bhagavan grew up to fulfill the task of that Arunachala, for whose purpose he had been born. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. We now have the chanting of verses from Ramananjali by Radha and Vallabh.
Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala. Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala. Omkara Purupuyavilloi Unayararivar Arunachala. Auvai pol enakun arulai tandene ஆடுவதும் கடன் அருணாச்சலா. கண்ணுக்கு கண்ணாய் கண்ணின்றி காணுனை காணுவதேவர்பா அருணாச்சலா. கவந்தென்னை விடாமல் கலந்தென்னோடிருப்பாய் அருணாச்சலா. கிரியுருவாகிய கிருபை கடலே கிருப்பை கூர்ந்தருளுவாய் அருணாச்சலா. கீழ்மேலெங்கும் கிளரொளி மணியன் கீழ்மையை பாழ் செய் அருணாச்சலா. குற்றமுற்றருத்தென்னை குணமாய் படித்தாள் குரு உருவாயொளிர் அருணாச்சலா. கூர்வாட்கண்ணியர் கொடுமைப்படாதருள் கூர்ந்தென்னை சேர்ந்தருள் அருணாச்சலா. கெஞ்சியும் வஞ்சியாய் கொஞ்சமும் இறங்கிலை அஞ்சல் என்றே அருள் அருணாச்சலா. கேடாதடிக்கும் முன் கேடில் புகழை கேடு செய்யாதருள் அருணாச்சலா. கையினிற் கனி உன் மீரசம் கொண்டு உவகை வெறி கொள்ள அருள் அருணாச்சலா. கொடியிட்டடியரை கொல்லுனை கட்டி கொண்டெங்கன் வாழ்வேன் அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சல சிவ, அருணாச்சல சிவ, அருணாச்சல சிவ, 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 அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சல சிவ, அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சல சிவ, அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சலம் வாழி அன்பர்களும் வாழி. அக்ஷரமண மாலை வாழி.
Namo Ramana. We conclude today's satsang with Ashtotra Puja to Bhagwan, performed at Dilip's altar. And the Ashtotra will be chanted, the first part by Vaibhavji and Prarthana, and the second part by Uma and Ashwini. And the Aarti song will be rendered by Revathi Shankar.
नमो रमण. भारद्वाज विश्वनाथ विरचितं श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तर शतनामावली. अपार सच्चेत् सुखवारियाशे यस्योऽपि मात्रं भुवनं समस्तं. गुहाहितं तं रमणं गभीरं चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि. ॐ महासेन महंसेन जाताय नमः. ॐ श्रीरमणाय नमः. ॐ गुरवे नमः. ॐ अखण्डसंविदाकाराय नमः. ॐ महौजसे नमः. ॐ कारणोद्भवाय नमः. ॐ जगद्दितावताराय नमः. ॐ श्रीभूमिनाथस्थलोस्थिताय नमः. ॐ पराशरकुलोत्तंसाय नमः. ॐ सुन्दरार्यतपःफलाय नमः. ॐ कमनीयसुचारित्राय नमः. ॐ सहायाम्बा सहायवते नमः. ॐ शोणाचलमहोलीनमानसाय नमः। ॐ स्वर्णहस्तकाय नमः। ॐ श्रीमद्द्वादशान्तमहास्थले लब्धविद्योदयाय नमः। ॐ महाशक्तिनिपातेन प्रबुद्धाय नमः। ॐ परमार्थविदे नमः। ॐ तीव्राय नमः। ॐ पितृपदान्वेषिणे नमः। ॐ इन्दुमौलिना पितृमते नमः। ॐ पितुरादेशतः शोणशैलं प्राप्ताय नमः। ॐ तपोमयाय नमः। ॐ उदासीनाय नमः। ॐ महायोगिने नमः। ॐ महोत्साहाय नमः। ॐ कुशाग्रधिये नमः। ॐ शान्तसङ्कल्पसम्रम्भाय नमः। ॐ सुसन्द्रशे नमः। ॐ सवित्रे नमः। ॐ स्थिराय नमः। ॐ तपःक्षपितसर्वाङ्गाय नमः। ॐ पुल्लाम्बुजविलोचनाय नमः। ॐ चन्द्रिकासितहासश्रीमण्डिताननमण्डलाय नमः। ॐ चूतवाट्यां समासीनाय नमः। ॐ चूडिताखिलविभ्रमाय नमः। ॐ वेदवेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञाय नमः। ॐ चिन्मुद्रिणे नमः। ॐ त्रिगुणातिगाय नमः। ॐ विरूपाक्षगुहावासाय नमः। ॐ विराजतशलाकृतये नमः। ॐ त्रिगुणातिगाय नमः। ॐ विरूपाक्षगुहावासाय नमः। ॐ विराजतचलाकृतये नमः। ॐ उद्दीप्तनयनाय नमः। ॐ पूर्णाय नमः। ॐ रचिताचलताण्डवाय नमः। ॐ गम्भीराय नमः। ॐ परमाचार्याय नमः। ॐ सुप्रसन्नाय नमः। ॐ अभयप्रदाय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणास्यनिभाय नमः। ॐ धीराय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणाभिमुखाय नमः। ॐ स्वराजे नमः। ॐ महर्षये नमः। ॐ भगवते नमः। ॐ ईड्याय नमः।
ॐ भूमविद्याविशारदाय नमः। ॐ विमलाय नमः। ॐ दीर्घदर्शिने नमः। ॐ आप्ताय नमः। ॐ ऋजुमार्गप्रदर्शकाय नमः। ॐ समदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्यदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्याय नमः। ॐ प्रशान्ताय नमः। ॐ अमितविक्रमाय नमः। ॐ सुकुमाराय नमः। ॐ सदानन्दाय नमः। ॐ मृदुभाषिणे नमः। ॐ दयार्णवाय नमः। ॐ श्री षोडाचलद्भूतस्कन्दाश्रमनिकेतनाय नमः। ॐ सद्दर्शनोपदेष्ट्रे नमः। ॐ सद्भक्तवृन्दपरिवृताय नमः। ॐ गणेशमुनिभृङ्गेन सेविताग्रसरोरुहाय नमः। ॐ गीतोपदेशसारादिग्रन्थसञ्छिन्नसंशयाय नमः। ॐ वर्णाश्रममतातीताय नमः। ॐ रसज्ञाय नमः। ॐ सौम्याय नमः। ॐ ते नमः। ॐ सर्वावनिमतस्थानाम् आराध्याय नमः। ॐ सर्वसद्गुणिने नमः। ॐ आत्मारामाय नमः। ॐ महाभागाय नमः। ॐ मातृमुक्तिविधायकाय नमः। ॐ विनताय नमः। ॐ विनुताय नमः। ॐ विप्राय नमः। ॐ मुनीन्द्राय नमः। ॐ पावकोज्ज्वलाय नमः। ॐ दर्शनादकसंहारिणे नमः। ॐ मौनेन स्वात्मबोधकाय नमः। ॐ रुच्चान्तिकरसान्निध्याय नमः। ॐ स्मरणाद्बन्धमोचकाय नमः। ॐ अन्तस्तिमिरचण्डांशवे नमः। ॐ संसारार्णवतारकाय नमः। ॐ षोडाद्रीशस्तुतिद्रष्टे नमः। ॐ हार्दविद्याप्रकाशकाय नमः। ॐ अविच्युतनिजप्रज्ञाय नमः। ॐ नैसर्गिकमहातपसे नमः। ॐ कमण्डलुधराय नमः। ॐ शुभ्रकौपीनवसनाय नमः। ॐ गुहाय नमः। ॐ दण्डपाणये नमः। ॐ कृपापूर्णाय नमः। ॐ भवरोगविषग्वराय नमः। ॐ स्कन्दाय नमः। ॐ देवतमाय नमः। ॐ अमर्त्याय नमः। ॐ सेनान्ये नमः। ॐ पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः।
यस्थाणोररुणाचलस्य पदयोः स्मृत्या जनिं प्राप्यत दिव्यानुग्रहसुप्रवाहविवशस्तादात्म्यभावं गतः हृन्निष्ठस्वगभीरनित्यतपसा लोकान् पुनास्येकराट् तस्मै श्रीरमणाय ते नम इदं लोकोत्तरज्योतिषे। नमो 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 रमण सदाशिव प्रभावरण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि नमो 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 रमण सदाशिव प्रभावरण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि दर्शन सुख मंगल मुख सकल जीवहित सम्मुख ब्रह्म संगिये नमो 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 रमण सदाशिव प्रभावरण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि सदा तुष्ट सदा हृष्ट सदा शिवानंद पुष्ट परम महर्षि ब्रह्मनिष्ठ समदर्शी नमो 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 रमण सदाशिव प्रभावरण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि ನಮ್ಮ ಮನವದೊಂದು ಕಾಡು ನೀನರಿತಿಹೆ ಅದರ ಜಾಡು ಹಿತವನರಿತು ನೀಡು ತೆಮ್ಮ ಕೊರೆಯ ತಣಿಸಲೈ ಬೇಡಲೆಂದು ಬಂದ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿಯೇ ತಣಿವೆವಯ್ಯ ಮೂಡಿಗಾರನೆ ಹಿತವ ನುಡಿದು ಪೊರೆ ನಮ್ಮನು ಬ್ರಹ್ಮ ಸಂಘಿಯೇ नमो 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 रमण सदाशिव प्रभावरण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि नमो 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 रमण सदाशिव प्रभावरण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि। बोलो भगवान श्री रमण महर्षि की जय।
जय